So I think this is a good point. Now we've covered like the origins of the D-score, what prompted attribute creation, and what it's applicable to. And it's been a while now since
Yes.
the evolution now of all the attributes. So what have you learned over all your analyses? We're speaking quantitatively now with the attributes, with the D-score, operational things. What have you learned that you can feel free to share with
So
people?
I learned as a data analyst is that I learned that you need to do things more easy, so not that complex.
Simplicity
is important because one thing that it's damaging us in the last year is that whatever change we want to do in the attributes or whatever change we want to test in the D-score, it's a pain in the ass to change it. I mean, it's really difficult to know if I change this in this attribute, how will affect it to the final D-score.
It sounds to me like the solution started creating the problem.
It's you never finish. No, you cannot,
not scalable.
Yes, and this is one thing. The other thing is that when we did the D-score, there was no Darwin. The Darwin was created 2 years later, and we have changed also the algorithm of the Darwin like 3-4 times until we have a really good signal. Really was that what we wanted to achieve is this pure signal is right now. I think I'm confident that it's at the 99.9 of perfection of what we wanted to achieve.
In terms of what you wanted to achieve.
Yes, and once we have the data, we have more. I don't know, more than 10,000. A data set of more than 10,000 Darwins. You see that maybe with a different approach, it's much easier to create a proper D-score. Thinking of the D-score as a metric to differentiate the ability of a signal to create, or the Darwin, a pure signal to create returns in the future. And for example, there were cases like people who had really high scores that no one, if we sit here in this room, 10 traders, no one would say this trader deserves that score. That happened.
Did happen.
And this kind of things, that things are not going as well as we wanted. No? Or people that earn the first prize in Darwinian.
It starts raising questions as to, how predictive is it?
Yes, because you say, maybe we can discuss if this Darwin deserves a 73 or 72, but you cannot discuss that this has someone has an 80 and you see that it's not
it's clearly not
a good Darwin, no? But you know this because now you see the Darwin. But 2 years ago, when we started,
initially,
there was only a signal, that the trading strategy, the original signal, which was rated, and you couldn't see the Darwin. So it was really difficult to really criticize the D-score.
Right.
So what we learned is that the current D-score is good approach, a really good approach, a much better approach than anyone else to rank or signals, but it's not as good as we think it can be. The new D-score predicting the pure signal. Once you have the quote and you see the quote, if you focus just in the quote, you can have a much better D-score and do it much better and less criticizable, and at the same time, much more productive to create our own portfolio of Darwins. That's the final idea, to have a proprietary metric to invest our money.
Great. Okay. So given that the change is happening, or is the one conclusion that you've arrived at between the two D-scores over time? So so I'll frame this as a question. Do you consider the new D-score as more predictive of a strategy's ability to generate future returns than the current D-score?
Yes, absolutely.
This is a really important question.
Absolutely. So the thing is, it's not an easy question either, because
it's not.
It depends on the time frame. I'm going to tell you, if I create for example, I want to create a portfolio of Darwins that rotates it on a daily basis. Okay, it means that each day I will define which Darwins enter in that portfolio. If you put this limitation, such restrictions, it means no restrictions at all, because you invest almost every day. Maybe the current D-score is good enough. But the problem is that the rotation is killing you. The transaction cost kills you.
Yes,
kills the return.
daily rotation.
So it's amazing. We didn't expect how much it affects to the returns, and so we said, hey, and the idea of the Darwin is not a tradable asset. If you think about it, the changes we have done so far in the last month, we changed the business model and reducing the risk. It's all it's a move to the direction of selling the Darwin as an investable
and
class.
Just to interrupt you here, so some people heard the change of business model just now. Just to remind people that most recently there was a change in business model at Darwinex, whereby Darwinex is now sharing the success of Darwin providers' performance fee accrual, as well as charging a management fee. So if you'd like to have more information about this, it's posted on our website, and we've also recorded it.
And we also reduce the risk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just to compete to funds, not just to
be more competitive along mainstream funds.
Yes, and in that sense, whatever portfolio we did, it should not rotate that much. So a good signal that the D-score is the new D-score is more predictive. It's not more predictive. It's that it's giving much more return, a little more return than the other, but without rotating that much. It means that this score doesn't change that much. It's not that volatile
as before.
Yes. So it's, and I think this is a really good signal of that it's really giving or ranking the strategies more than long term. No?
And I suppose it solves the problem that we were just talking about earlier, which was that sometimes we'll come upon a strategy that has a really high current D score, and you look at this thing and you'll go,
it will never happen because
it can't happen with the new one.
This is the way we started. We said, hey, we haven't achieved to make money with our own money in Darwin's with an automated portfolio. I mean, it's automated, not manual. Mm-hmm. We're thinking always in an automated way,
yes.
With tons of Darwin's in the portfolio at the same time, which is it's not an easy task. Mm-hmm. We didn't succeed, and we said, hey, let's try another approach. If the best way to think about if I need to invest in a Darwin is, I think it's looking just at the Darwin, at the quote. And this is the approach. Whenever, and it started to happen to me when I have my own Darwin portfolio manual, and I trade and I invested manually. Mm-hmm. And it came at a time in which I never saw the D-score. I saw the attributes, but never the D-score. I saw.
For anyone who's listening, Javi is probably one of maybe 3 manual traders I know in the world who's actually good at manual trading.
I know if I'm good enough.
Oh no, I sit next to you. I know exactly what you're doing. So,
but the thing is that it started for me. It was a really bad signal that me as the creator with my team of the D-score, I was not looking at it anymore. No, I was looking at the chart, looking at the quote, the track history, how much years of trading history I had, and I also saw the investment attributes individually, but never the D-score. It means that I was not believing in the D-score anymore. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I wanted to change it, but we were in a position that changing it was so difficult because we need to change the investable attributes one by one. So or the weights of each. It was a completely
cascading of.
It was impossible. And so we thought at Darwinex we said, hey, let's keep the dependency of the investable attributes and try to do something just using the quote.
And speaking as a trader myself, there's a high degree of overfit risk when you keep trying to modify weights.
Yes, it happens.
Which is bad on its own.
Yes. So we said let's start from zero and make the approach that we would have done if we had at that moment when we created the D-score, if we thought about it with having the data we have right now and the quotes of the Darwin that we have right now. And this is the way we started. And we, as I said, we are only using the quote and the trading history, nothing else.
So now that we aren't using the investment attributes, I have 2 questions for you. I'll start with the quote. So what about the quote on its own appeals to you most in having formulated the new D-score? So what drove your decision with the quote? Why not something else?
Because I've been investing manually in Darwin since we started.
Yes.
And slowly but steady, I've been learning that the best Darwins are those that you see that are good, just on the quote. So this is, and that whenever the Darwin starts losing alpha, you see this in the quote too. And this is where I started saying, hey, with Borja, my teammate, and you, Darwinex Labs, we said, hey, let's start doing this as easy as possible, because it's a good starting point. And let's try to find out and test the score with our back test, if it's possible, to see if our approach is correct or not. And the good thing is of this approach is that once we finish it, we can iterate it easily.
Because now you have one variable.
Yes, one variable. Yes, that's true.
One effective source variable, which is
that's true. And at the same time, what if we make attributes and this score independent from each other? It will allow us also to improve the investable attributes from now on, because
that's right.
We know
independently.
Yes, independently,
without fear of messing anything else.
We know that from our focus right now is going to make the best investable attributes possible in the industry. Adding even those that we consider that put information on the table that is hidden in the data, and so it's a win-win on both sides. This score is going to give you the insights of how much you got return,
yes,
with a pure signal without leverage illusions.
Yes, absolutely.
And the other side is telling you how it get to that return without compromising intellectual property, which is also amazing. No?
For example, the other great thing about this is, I think it's really relevant here, is that us inside Darwinex are not the only ones who can conduct this kind of metric engineering. With the API in place, anyone can go ahead and create attributes.
We have created the score with just using the quote, and the quote is available in the API. So that means that anyone can create his own score.
Absolutely.
And as I said, I know there are outside of Darwinex tons of people much cleverer than we are.
Yes, absolutely.
So I mean, I really encourage the people to try to
tap in and
do it, because it's, as I said, it's I think that the quality of the data deserves to be treated and try to demonstrate that you can make money from using the data of Darwinex.
Absolutely.
It's a really good data set.